And for anybody that hasn't joined us on one of these, really, I'm not set on giving a technical demonstration as much as just explaining the application and what Design X did in that application to be successful, right? So in this first construction one, as we did before, talk about some of the scanners that would produce this type of point cloud. So we're going to talk about a construction site model here that I have pulled up. And these are different devices that people have used in the market. Now, there are a lot, like I could clutter this slide up with all kinds of scanners here that can do this type of collection, and they all have different strengths, whether it's the range and accuracy or the form. Like you see here that we have a drone on here now. So lots of people are collecting information with drones now, especially in the construction world. And you have these devices like the SLAM on the left-hand side that you can now just like walk around a job site and it will automatically align and collect data. There's just so many cool devices here now. It's really a great time to get into this market, and you can just collect so much information so easily now. It's gotten so much better. But these medium to long range devices, some people refer to them as LiDAR. That's kind of a category that sometimes people will use to talk about the long range market. But regardless of that, this is what we did with this specific application. So in this one, we created an as-built model of the landscaping and key structures of this scan here. So you can see on the top left, you have the scan of an entire piece of property. And they've just done a light scan. You see that you can add more positions and scan a lot more if you want to, but it all depends on what you're doing. If you don't need all that detail, you don't need to waste time adding extra scans when you're just trying to get an overview of a job site. So you see there's some missing areas here and there, but this accomplishes what we're trying to accomplish here. And in this instance, there are people in the market that can do basic modeling from this long range market. But in this instance, what we're doing is we're going to mesh it, and we're going to create a highly detailed model, as you can see down here on the bottom left, a highly detailed model from that data. And we will zoom in and take a look at it. So our specialty with the long range market, I touched on it a little bit in the last one, is if you need to get a lot of complicated modeling, that's where DX really shines in this area. If you're just trying to like locate just a position of a box or whatever, yeah, there's other things in the market that will do stuff like that. But you can see here, based on the detail of this model, that there's a lot more that you can do with Design X. So let me go ahead and pause my screen and show Design X. And we will just scroll down to the one that's, there we go. It always takes a little longer than I wish it would to switch screens here, but so here is the scan. If I rotate it around and zoom in, and you see this has texture on it. So depending on what device you use and what settings and what model that you purchase, the devices sometimes capture texture and color, or both. Some of them are just giving you the intensity value of the laser. Some of them actually have different cameras on them. So if I just turn the texture off, this is the mesh that we've created, and you can just zoom in here and walk around here. There's I really wonder where this is. It's really cool looking, right? So we have all kinds of detail here. If I zoom around, you see over here, it looks like there's some construction going on, where you come up here and like a loader or some vehicles have driven up and down this. It's crazy the amount of detail. And this is actually a low low detail, low resolution scan, believe it or not. And you can see here that you can visually see all the scan data that we've collected here. Now, when we bring this in, we can come over to import, and I hope this comes up on the screen properly on this meeting. I think it does. Again, going back to our legacy of just being in the market for a long, long time, any scanner or scanner company that exists, one, we usually know about them, and two, we make plugins for them and or importers. So you see as we go through here, even a bunch of scanners that don't exist anymore. We have the Minolta Range 7 files. Rest in peace, Minolta. But those were beautiful scans, and they came in and we could open up their scans, right? There's lots of really cool scans here, even ones that I've never even heard of. Like, so, oh, we even open, look, we can even open Rhino files. But these are just the import. This isn't the translator for the CAD, so we actually open up more things than that. But this just points to the fact that we partner and we work with all these scanner companies, and we integrate in whatever form or fashion that they would like to work with us, right? So we can bring in their file types and import them in. So that's what we did here. Is I didn't work specifically on this one. I'm going through our portfolio of just different applications that we have, but it could be like a PTS file or a BTX file or whatever. We'd hit import and it would come in here as a point cloud. And what one of our specialties is in our software is we have a whole point clouds menu over here and all kinds of point cloud tools. So I can filter the point clouds. You see, I can filter noise. I can sample and reduce them. I can combine them together. I can align them. I can do all kinds of things. Sometimes I forget to explain this and tell everyone that this stuff is available because, one, a lot more OEM scanner companies mesh things now. It's becoming something that they now do more often than they used to. And two, I mean, this was at the beginning of our software, way back. These are the things that we would really do is focus on point clouds and cleaning them and making meshes of them. These were the foundational things of our software. So I've been talking about them for an awful long time, and I often overlook them, but there's all kinds of different methods to triangulate and mesh, and we're really good at that. We've been in it forever. We're one of the first few companies in the world, Geomagic, to triangulate and point clouds and decimate them, and some of the patents and stuff that they have, like there's tons of different ones that they have that are based in those areas. So don't quote me on which ones they are. But again, been in the market for a long time. And then the point clouds. So like you could edit and work with these. It's almost like the Photoshop of points and polygons. So I can edit these, copy, paste them, remove them, fill holes, all kinds of different things. So if there's any sort of repair that you need to do, we'll just fill a hole here. And it's going to tell me, hey, there's lots of little errors with this, which happens with long range scans, by the way. And if I just click on a boundary and hit that boundary and say, I want to fill it flat, tangent, or curvature, I can do that and it will fill that area for me. Now, sometimes this stuff takes a little bit longer when you're on a meeting, just because of the GoToMeeting is using all the presentation. And another thing today is I took time to go ahead and pre-open these, so it's a little easier to cycle between the different applications today. So as you see here, we have the mesh. I turn the texture on and off. You have that. This one was only black and white, right? So if I zoom in, you see it's just the grayscale intensity. It comes from the scanner. And I have the history tree like we hit on at the last one. So with the history tree, what's really nice about this, and what all three applications we're going to focus on today, is the fact that you can learn from this history tree. So if I go roll back, and we'll just give it a second there. It will, we'll see if the meeting cooperates with us. And I'm going to say roll forward, and I'll just toggle my mesh on and off just so you can see it. So sometimes there is a delay with these meetings of being able to show the rebuild of these. So I'll turn the mesh on and off, and then I'll turn the solid on. So you'll see here in this instance, if I turn the mesh off and on, that they created a sketch and then created an extrusion of that wall here directly over top of that. And if I come into the sketch and hit edit and then go normal 2, and I just toggle my mesh on, you can see how you can easily just come in here. We just created a cross section through the mesh and redrew that wall directly over top. Now we have the polyline that we can work with, and I can turn that on and off and just look at the mesh as well. Now, those of you that may have used Design X and you see that I'm toggling this on and off really fast, another little tip or trick that I want to make everyone aware of while I'm in here is the fact that I'm doing that with my 3D mouse. So I don't know how many versions ago we decided to update the driver and our support of the 3D mouse driver, and we added the ability to set shortcuts for Design X to buttons. So naturally what I did, because if you've used Design X, you know that in Design X, you're turning the mesh on, off, you're turning the CAD on, off, you're turning the surfaces on, off all the time. So I set those for different buttons on the mouse. So that way, as I'm using it, I don't have to keep going all the way up here or over here to turn those on and off, right? And then of course I have the mouse as well. So if I use the mouse here, look at how fluid it is when I rotate it. It's not like when somebody's using the regular mouse. So like, you know, you can tell when somebody's using a regular mouse to rotate something because it's just like all jerky. But like I can even with the 3D mouse and zoom in and rotate around. It's almost like I'm flying through. And now with that benefit of being able to, if I zoom in here and then just toggle on and off the CAD, it's really cool to be able to do that. So now I'm just going to roll forward a couple steps, and you'll see here that we just went about and created sketches and mesh fits. And again, it's going to take a second each time we do this because this is a very intense model, as you'll see when we finish. Is that we went ahead and again, I'll turn off. So it looks like now with these different sketches, we've modeled those walls and fit those. And then we fit this surface here. And we'll just see where that surface is by turning this on. So you see there's a little roof over here that they selected and fit a surface plane there. And then we'll come a little bit farther forward here. And so what's really neat is with Design X, if you have a file from somebody that did some really complicated modeling, you're able to use it as a tutorial and walk back through the history. And I will tell you, a huge portion of my knowledge of CAD has been gathered by just learning from others and how they modeled things, right? It just taking the time to say, oh, look at, this is how they were able to accomplish this by, they put a sketch here and they extruded it in that direction, or they did a mesh fit and they trimmed it with this other piece over here. And I'll just keep stepping forward here so you can see. And we'll just let that regenerate. But it's really neat because you're seeing a timeline of the steps that they took to model it, and you can see the approach that they took, and it just bears all of the information. So you see, now we're at a stage where now they created a giant block. So if I turn the block off and on, they went ahead and took the entire property, created a sketch from it, and extruded that. So now it looks like they're going to go ahead and start cutting away from that. And we'll just step forward. So yeah, look at, we went ahead and we cut the top of that, and then cut this off. And we'll just keep stepping through to see really interesting things throughout this. So we cut away from here. They trimmed all of this together and then used all of that to trim the top of that block off. And then we'll add pieces later here. And we'll just take us another, looks like we did a bunch of extrudes for different walls. Just give it a second to load up. But as you can see, just taking the time to watch and learn from someone else that accomplished a task in CAD, it's so valuable to be able to roll back with a history-based model and take a look at what they did to accomplish modeling. Because if you look at this as a whole, it might be really confusing. You look at the final model and you say, where did they even begin? Where did they start? And again, this can help you break down the model into the different steps. So now I'm going to turn that off. So now look at, we went ahead and added the exterior all the way around the outside and Booleaned and trimmed it in. Roll forward here. And you can fit. So here they did a 3D sketch along that. Here, we'll see if we can turn that on. Did a 3D sketch along that path that's around the outside. I'm not even sure what that is. And then we'll come over here and we'll just see what happens with that, see what next steps they did. We can see how he just modeled the entire thing this way. We'll just hide and show so you can see, create those paths. This might be an area that they were interested in, why a bunch of extra steps capturing the detail for those regions around that outside there. Yeah, it almost looks like a train path or something around the outside. And you see how you can, in our software, we've covered it multiple times. Actually, in other applications moving forward here, I'll show that we have that ability to do mesh fits and stuff. Break those down a little more, because that's a really interesting tool in here. I've shown it lots of times, but I think it never gets old because it's so useful and it saves so many hours. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead just for the sake of time and roll to the end, because I have two more that I want to show that are also very interesting. So we'll just fast forward to the end, because I think we've seen the main functions here. The rest of it has been rinse and repeat. So they did lots of extrusions and extractions, some manual lofts, and then they did some mesh fits to capture the shapes of the ground, and then trimming to piece this stuff all together to create this final site. And then we'll zoom in and look at it here. So just give me a second and rebuild. And we'll zoom into this. This part I thought was really interesting because we captured the ground. Just do this too. Remember this area here? Mesh fit a surface patch. So it did a mesh fit right there. And depending on what they did, we can, this one, mesh fit 19, and we can scroll over and find where it is in the tree. And then you can show and hide the fit. Looks like they trimmed them together, so it's going to be a different number now. But you can see that right there as a preview of what they fit to the ground there, and then trim that in with the other pieces. So here's the final result. Really neat. Look at how it's got the detail there. And these are the things that we are good at being able to, yes, I can do the prismatic modeling stuff, and I think we can do it really fast using a CAD-like interface, like a SolidWorks type or NX type of interface. But then the detail of being able to model stuff extremely accurate, and yeah, that is just really helpful.